one of the world's most well-known clairvoyants, Edgar Cayce, anticipated that Russian President Vladimir Putin would be a power of light in avoiding World War III from happening in the midst of the worldwide turmoil we see today. His forecasts were made over 80 years prior in the progression of world affairs readings about the eventual fate of world initiative, aggregate otherworldly existence, and the essential part Russia and Vladimir Putin would play on the world stage. Cayce alluded to Putin as being the thistle in the side of the money-related forces who might attempt to arrange themselves against the benefit of humankind in a post-World War II world. WakingTimes.com reports. At the point when gotten some information about political and monetary patterns in Europe, Cayce focused in on Russia. Europe is as a house separated. A few years prior there was the experience of a forceful people groups being abrogated for the delight and fulfillment of a couple of, regardless of some other man's correct. That people groups are experiencing the experience of being conceived once more, and is the thistle and the substance to numerous a political and budgetary country in Europe, on the planet. Q. What is the name of that country alluded to? A. Russia. 3976 8, source. 70 years after the annihilation of the Axis powers, Russia has been renewed, yet whatever remains of the world is currently generally under the thumb of the Western globalist keeping money cartel. This cartel is organized as the IMF, the World Bank, the Bank for International Settlements, and the worldwide system of national banks, save banks, advancement banks, and venture banks that hold the world's chosen governments in never-ending receivership and the world's kin in servitude to scientifically difficult-to-pay obligation. Exhibit Day. On the edge of the knife in 2013, the U.S. was endeavoring to attack Syria under clearly affectations. Putin forestalled U.S. involvement by debilitating to intercede militarily in a contention that around then had not yet decayed unto the shocking conditions we see today. With the considered annihilation of Ukraine by the George Soros-supported shading transformation destabilization team, then the advances of the IMF to obligation conquer Ukraine with many billions of dollars in constrained improvement advances, Putin's Russia risen as the singular force equipped for checking the banking plot's worldwide progress, and is declining to enable Ukraine and Crimea to fall under the control of Western upheld powers. The amazing chessboard that is the Middle East is burning, and the world is on a razor's edge, gotten between the genuine plausibility of heightening to Third World War and the apparently far-off any expectation of world pioneers all of a sudden discovering rational soundness and erasing the circumstance. Cayce talked about Russia's part just like the expectation of the world in a coming time, for example, this. In Russia there comes the expectation of the world, not as that occasionally named of the socialist, or Bolshevik, no, yet opportunity, flexibility. That each man will live for his kindred man. The rule has been conceived. It will take a long time for it to be solidified, yet out of Russia comes back again the expectation of the world. Edgar Cayce, 1944, number 3976-29. As occasions in Syria and Iraq have turned out to be more convoluted and obliterating for individuals in the locale, the Islamic State, ISIS, has been on a crusade of sudden stunning exhibition, ruling grisly fear on Christians, Syrians, Kurds, direct Muslims, Shia Muslims, and anybody in the middle. ISIS, as everybody clearly knows, is supported and supplied weaponry by the US and Israel as a methods for by implication toppling the Assad administration in Syria. As the US and its partners imagine like they are not in charge of ISIS and act like they are weak to stop ISIS, Putin has tranquilly told the world beyond all doubt reality about the West's help for ISIS and the other hired soldier groups which have totally crushed Syria, as of now slaughtered a huge number of individuals, if not millions, and constraining the designed displaced person emergency on Europe, growing the emergency now into Macedonia. In this video Vladimir Putin relevantly clarifies the serious circumstance with striking clarity the spiritual development and leadership of Russia. Indeed, even before World War II, Cayce seems to have anticipated the requirement for Russia to develop profoundly in some way with the goal that it is ready to ascend contrary to the rotting moral estimations of the entrepreneur West and have its impact as the immense any desire for the world. Cayce was solicited, what ought to be the state of mind from purported entrepreneur countries toward Russia. On Russia's religious improvement will come the more prominent any expectation of the world. At that point that one, or gathering, that is the nearer in its connections, may charge the better in the slow changes and last settlement of conditions with regards to the manage of the world. 3976-10. A half-year later, extra data was exhibited which elucidated this before forecast. Out of Russia there may come what might be the premise of a more overall religious idea or pattern. 3976-12. At the point when Cayce got some information about the Russian circumstance in June 1938, he was told, "Another comprehension has and will go to a beset people. Here, on account of the burden of mistreatment, in view of the self-liberalities, has emerged another outrageous. Just when there is the right to speak freely, the privilege to adore as indicated by the manages of the inner voice, until the point that these come to fruition, still turmoils will be inside." 3976-19, source. Basically Cayce seems, by all accounts, to be alluding to Russia after the trials under Soviet government and the crumple of the Soviet Union, and also the requirement for the world to come back to humanistic esteems with a specific end goal to free itself from the abuse of the Zionist cartels which have been sorting out against mankind for a considerable length of time. Cayce is stating that some kind of much required otherworldly administration will originate from Russia in this time, some sort of disposition that will make it workable for a progress of this gauge to happen without experiencing the ensured annihilation of any World War III. Putin is, best case scenario, no holy person, and there is no belittling the potential for double-dealing by any nationalistic association. However, in a review of the real players on the field right now, when humankind is wavering on a well-sharpened sharp blade's edge, Putin appears to be bringing something to the table that other world pioneers aren't wielding. Common sense. What's more, what might profound authority look like in a world gone frantic, in any case? At first it would show up as presence of mind. Obviously. Aristotle even ventures to state that presence of mind is the place cognizance originates. So if the general public is deficient in like manner sense, and there's next to zero still, small voice, ethical quality, sympathy, awareness, inventiveness, taste, acumen or love, the way completes one proposed to oversee such a populace? Source. Putin's activities in Syria bodes well, among the accessible choices. As of now he has likely kept the intrusion of Syria by Turkey, checking President Erdogan at the outskirt, and he has seriously disturbed the operations of ISIS. Both are wins for the reason for sounded judgment in a field of bad form. Did Edgar Cayce by one means or another realize that Russia would take the sounded judgment hole between profound initiative and the ensured devastation of World War III which is being built by the West? Talking on the present territory of US and Russia relations at a current summit, Putin stated, with respect to America, "You should transcend the perpetual want to overwhelm. You should quit carrying on of imperialistic aspirations. Try not to harm the psyches of a great many individuals, like there can be no other way however imperialistic legislative issues." Vladimir Putin. Putin is guiding our regard for the 800-pound gorilla in the room that nobody else appears to discuss. America and the West never again have any ethical prevalence on the planet. Cayce likewise made remarks about America's future good rot. In the last World Affairs perusing given on June 22, 1944, under a half-year before Edgar's passing, he tends to the soul and the transgression of America. What is the soul of America? Most people gladly brag opportunity. Freedom of what? At the point when you tie men's hearts and brains through different ways and behavior, does it give them the right to speak freely? Opportunity of love? Flexibility from need? In the use of these standards, America may brag, yet rather is that guideline being overlooked. And that is the wrongdoing of America. 3976-29, reading 3975-15, given on January. Conclusion. Did Edgar Cayce predict Putin's interfering part in the Western intrigues and tend to surpass the world through money-related domination, political destabilization, and full-scale world war, arrange out of disarray? Cayce likewise anticipated the likelihood of a third world war. He talked about strifes emerging in Libya, and in Egypt, in Ankara, and in Syria, through the straits around those zones over the Persian Gulf. Source: regardless of whether you have faith in the energy of the human personality to interface with Source and pull back data about the future, things are arranging such that Cayce's predictions in regards to Russia are demonstrating very far-sighted now, providing us some insight that in any event we shouldn't hang on too firmly to any assumptions about what will occur in coming years. What's more, in a vacuum of any presence of mind or humanistic authority from the present powers that be, the reason not seek a loved mystic for heading. At last, however, all we have from Cayce is extremely simply the motivation to activity we get from investigating his past for pieces of information and expectation about our future. In case you're worried about the heading things are taking, given Cayce's words a chance to energize you to activity. This article was initially distributed in 2015 and is every now and again refreshed.